Hey, what's up? It's GW coming to you live. Um, I know this is a little bit late, but in case you guys were under a rock and not paying attention to the news, one of the 20th century's most beloved directors, I should say, and I use that term loosely because not a lot of people would appreciate his work. People in the horror community actually loved it. He turned out two two films. One spawned a number of sequels. The other one was a lesser known affair about a babysitter or a nanny, rather, and an evil tree that went kind of under the radar. He has done things. Tales from the Crypt. He directed an episode called On a Dead Man's Chest. And I'm talking about the late William Friedkin. He died of heart failure and pneumonia, and I believe he was 71 years old. So, before I get into all this, William Friedkin actually never intended to make a horror movie. The Exorcist actually became his most famous horror outing ever because of the controversy it did sort of kick up in the 70s. Uh, Very controversial film. I mean, a lot of you have seen it. I've seen it numerous times. It's about a Washington family whose whose daughter gets possessed by the devil. Now, this film was so popular and so controversial that it was picketed, boycotted, a number of other things. You guys can get on Shudder and watch. Oh, I forget that documentary where they show all the crazy stuff that happened. You know, Films or Fright or something like that. I can't remember what the show is right off the bat. I've had a rough couple of days, but basically, The Exorcist was his first outing in horror, and he never really wanted to make a horror movie. He wanted to make a. He never wanted to direct this. Let's just put it that way. The Hollywood and Warner Brothers went through a whole line of directors before they got William Friedkin. William Friedkin said, "Look, give me the script. I'll see what I can do." Turned out to be one of the best movies, horror movies, I think of all time, because it terrifies you in a way where the unseen can happen, and it's also terrifying. I remember watching this film and then actually looking into, real life cases of possession, and guys, it's pretty creepy. And if you haven't seen it, if you pick up this version, the extended director's cut, which I don't know if it's still in print, but if you guys can get that, it has a couple of more segments than the actual theatrical cut. One is a shot of Arlington Cemetery where Reagan and her mom are walking through it. And there's a nice little set of dialogue there. It's pretty cool. The other one is the most famous scene ever omitted from the film. It's called the spider walk scene. And this is the scene that I wanted to see. This is the scene that sort of to me, put the intensity cap on the movie. Because she walks down a flight of stairs. I don't even know how to describe it. Linda Blair actually walks down the flight of stairs with her head facing up to the ceiling, bent down and crawling. And it's a terrifying scene because every time you watch this version, you know that scene's coming. You really do. You wait for it, you wait for it, wait for it, and then bam, it scares the hell out of you every time. It was adapted by a book by William Peter Blatty, who really, I think, between Friedkin and Blatty, they really captured what it would be like to be possessed by the devil. And it did this film, if you haven't seen it, and I know there's a lot of you who don't, because a lot of you guys jump to the slasher films, or the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, or you guys like the Scream films. But guys, if you haven't watched The Exorcist, and I truly mean this, you will find this to be a horror gem, because it is one of the most talked about films ever in the horror community. Also, you guys want to see something funny, look up on YouTube Richard Pryor, The Exorcist parodies. Funniest, one of the funniest damn things I've ever seen. But you got to watch the movie to get the jokes, obviously. Now, the second movie, horror film that William Friedkin directed, was called The Guardian. It was from 1987. And it was about a nanny who was stealing babies to feed them to an evil tree. I like the movie, but it has a little bit of a slow pace, and it wasn't really received well because everybody was waiting for the next Exorcist movie, which, by the way, The Exorcist has now spawned Exorcist 2. The Exorcist 3, I don't think was directed by William Friedkin. In fact, I know it wasn't. Was actually very controversial in and of itself because it played a pivotal part in the Jeffrey Dahmer trial. He referenced the movie several times, and in the testimony, and you can read about it, he was obsessed with that film. But that notwithstanding, the first two movies, The Exorcist and The Guardian, were both horror films by William Friedkin. And there's a couple other films I'd like to talk about too, because again, they got pushed underneath the radar due to either people not checking them out, or bigger blockbusters came around. Such is the case for one of William Friedkin's very earliest and very best movies, and it's a Roy Schneider vehicle. And if you guys haven't seen Sorcerer, which I know is a really dumb name when I tell you the plot of this film. Sorcerer is about a ragtag group of guys that need a job, and they are actually given a job to drive trucks of nitroglycerin through the South African jungle. And one of the most famous pivotal moments is when they have to cross a bridge when a river is flooding. And I heard about the scene, I'm like, yeah, people driving trucks down the street, how? But you don't take into consideration these nitroglycerin trucks in the film can blow up. They're hijacked by mercenaries. There's a whole lot of stuff that happens. And it is a very cool film. Now, I know a couple years ago, Criterion Pictures put out a Blu-ray DVD combo of it. I never jumped on it because I never thought it would go out of print. Well, it did. Sorcerer, if you can find it, is a very, very well done movie, and it takes you the intensity. It's that white knuckle intensity of the film, and I think again William Friedkin did a hell of a good job. Now, for those of you too that were around in the 80s or 70s and 80s, he did another one very, very controversial. It seems like controversy has surrounded most of his work. He did one called Cruising with Al Pacino, and it was very very controversial for the time because Al Pacino played a cop who went undercover to gay bars to try to catch a killer. And the film itself caused a lot of controversy. It was very intense. It was very, what's the word I'm looking for? It was very interesting to watch. There was some scenes of bondage in there, and from what I've been told. But again, it was Al Pacino stepped up to the plate and obviously made it a good movie. William Dafoe played in William Friedkin's movie To Live and Die in LA, which is another hardcore movie you should check out. I really like him. I don't necessarily like William Dafoe, but I do like him in that role. But it's interesting because I heard it and I was like, what? Because you don't really appreciate directors until they're gone. And I've said it before, like my wife's always telling me, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die. And I told her, I said, you know what? I'm not going to die. But the fear of dying sometimes makes you live your life better. You know what I mean? Or more, you get more out of life when you know that. But, if you read anything about him, he never intended on making The Exorcist as big as it did. And that's what's going to make him a household name, is The Exorcist. You throw out, like I said, you throw out the movie Sorcerer, people go, I don't know what that is. Who directed it? I don't know. You throw out To Live and Die in LA, maybe you get a couple. You throw out Cruising, you know what I mean? You don't know. But yeah, William Freidkin passed away, and it was crazy. It's been crazy here the last couple of days. We've had everything from tornado watches to our basement flooding. What else? What else? What else? We did watch the new Fast and Furious movie, Fast X, and here's the thing. A lot of people ask me all the time, Greg, do you like these movies? Greg, are these your favorite movies? Because there are people that live vicariously through all the characters in that film. And there's 10 of them, And I say, you know what, they're fun to watch, but do I really have... I like them a lot, but I get confused very easily. If you watch 2 or 3 of them, especially on Peacock, because I got the Fast and Furious channel, you do get kind of a little bit blitzed on what the plot's going on unless you pay attention. But I have to tell you, the new one is actually the longest of the franchise. It's 2 hours and 35 minutes. It's very, very fast paced, which I like. For PG-13, I think it pushes the intensity rating of the PG-13. Of course, now PG-13s were R's back in the day, so I am very interested to see where they're going to take this story. Because the cliffhanger, and I'm not going to ruin it for you, the cliffhanger is something that I think if you pick up right at the very beginning of the next film, you pick it up, you will have one hell of a ride. And I know, and a lot of people are probably going to open their eyes when I say this, but Vin Diesel has said, in just an interview I read the other day, they don't know how to end this thing. So here's what I'm going to pitch. If I was a screenwriter of the next Fast and Furious movie, I would make it so that at the end of Fast 12, you would have Dominic Toretto, played by Vin Diesel, and you would have Jason Momoa's character. And you would have one of the most intense drag racing scenes ever filmed. And at the end, of course, Jason Momoa's character dies. Vin Diesel's character just fades away, gets the keys, maybe a new car. And thus you can continue the franchise through a different character. If he throws the keys to the old car to somebody else, but it's just my thought, and you got to have race wars in there. Race wars, if you guys don't know, was a fixture in Fast and Furious. You guys saw it in Fast 10. But I think there needs to be, that, or you have one high intensity, high octane, bigger than everything you've ever done car chase. And at the end, same thing. Jason Momoa's character dies. But you got to have it to have the audience on the edge of their seats. I mean, they followed you through 10 movies. Make this 11th movie. Make it the most intense, high-octane experience ever. That's what I'm saying. As far as horror, I just mentioned The Exorcist. I did see that they're remaking it, believe it or not. I also told somebody, somebody asked me too, we were talking about Twilight Zone episodes, and I said, there's so many classic ones, but Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. That is one of my personal favorites, and I think because, I mentioned this before, but I think it's because the intensity of the unpredictability of the story and where it goes and how it plays on your fears, I think is amazing. And I want to comment on the new Barbie movie. Okay? This got to be said. Alright? First of all, I understand everybody's capitalizing on everything. And I understand why you would want to make a picture. What I don't understand about Barbie is that, if it's made for kids, you're looking at 7 to 13, I would say. maybe 6 to 13. Who knows? I've heard that there's some off-color jokes, there's some off-color humor, and I get it. Kids aren't going to get what a trans is. I get that. But here's the thing. Back in the day, you would never have that in a movie. And I'm not saying the movie's bad for putting it in there. So, just, everybody calm down. Everybody chill out. What I'm saying is if you're going to make those kind of comments in a movie, make a director's cut. So that whenever you get the DVD or the Blu-ray, you pop it in and you can decide, do I want my kids to hear this and know about this, or do I want them just to have fun and watch a movie? And that's a tricky slope. You know what I mean? Because on one hand, yeah, sometimes the jokes are so rapid fire you don't know what's going on. And on the other hand, you're like, why are everything that I go do, why are they jamming it down our throat? And I'm not saying Barbie's doing that by any means, but what I'm saying is, like, Christmas Day parade. I was watching with my grandma. My grandma's 98 years old. First 5 minutes of that parade, we have a guy dressed up like a girl. We have the announcers talk about the LGBTQ community for 15 minutes, and that's fine. That is fine. But people old school like my grandma, they look at me and they say, what the hell happened in this world? I said, Grandma, I don't know. I'm tolerant about a lot of stuff. In fact, I don't care about the LGBT. Whatever you are, just be yourself. I've always told people that. But I got people coming up to me and saying, oh, did you know this movie's full of that? Did you? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't know what Hollywood's doing. In fact, they're on strike, so they don't even know what they're doing. But I do know one thing. That if they don't get this strike taken care of, that it's going to be a long year. Not just for movies, but for TV shows. I mean, I was looking forward. We got a new Friday the 13th show in the works. We have a new season of Chucky that might come down the pike. We got a new season of Creepshow. I mean, it's going to be big for horror, but the problem is everybody's on strike. Speaking of horror, this Friday, if you pre-ordered it, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from Gunner Entertainment is going to come out. And my wife was funny. We were watching some YouTube videos of it. And she's like, really? She goes, this is just like the movie. I said, that's the point. I said, that's the point. You got to get out of the house. She looked at me and she goes, you and your buddy are going to play this? And I said, hell yeah. You know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is by far my favorite horror movie of all time. Because when I first saw it, and I'm going to let you guys in on something. When I first saw it when I was about 7 or 8, I didn't know much about movie makeup. I didn't know anything. This was another film like The Toxic Avenger that scarred me for life. So, when I saw it, the raw intensity of the thing and how brutal in nature this film was captivated me. And I was like, damn. Like, and the way it was shot was that 16 millimeter grainy style film. You know what I'm talking about? That real cool crime scene type stuff you see in the 70s movies. There was something about that made it seem more real. Made it seem like you're watching something that actually did happen, you know? And I was reading about it and how they shot the movie and almost unbearable heat conditions and limited budgets. And I mean, Tobe Hooper, my God, the guy was a trooper. You know, you read Gunnar Hansen's book, you know, and there's all kinds of stuff that they dealt with. The dinner table scene alone actually made everybody sick from the smell. But you know what? These guys persevered. They wanted to get their vision out there. And that film left an indelible mark on me. So, of course, I'm going to love whatever comes down the pike. You put a game out, I'm going to play the hell out of it. Not because I agree with it, but because that movie those characters and the time that I was growing up and I got involved in that, played a pivotal role, you know? Just like sometimes whenever you get your first girlfriend, you guys go out and she has cable and you guys watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you're going to watch Buffy your whole life. Not because you care about it, but because it meant something to you at the time. That's just what I'm saying. So look, I've been up since 2 a.m. And a couple of people I want to thank right off the bat. I want to thank Casey and Emily for being loyal supporters. I want to thank my man Green Eyed Assassin, you know who you are. My man Undead, helping me through Remnant. Remnant 2 is rough, guys. And it's good to have people that help you out and go the extra mile for you, even if it's on a stupid video game, which my wife would say. So many people I'd like to thank. My man Justin Mays, y'all know who you are. One of these days I'm going to come down and try that ice cream, bro. So you better have something good. There's a lot of people that I know have supported me. And earlier this year, you guys don't know this, but I was in a funk and I wanted to actually quit doing this. And I had people like Justin, and I had people like Emily and Casey, and I had my man Green, and they were like, dude, don't give up. And one more thing, Dre, I know you're going to watch this, all right? I know you don't like the phone. But every once in a while, drop a line, let me know you're okay. Because I'm going to be real with you, bro. I miss my brother. That's the realest shit I could ever say. So look, I didn't mean nothing by jumping on the LGBTQ thing. I have no problem with it. I just know that people, I can see they're just ticked because they know the world changed. And I'll tell you what, as long as I got my horror films and I got you guys, that's all I really need. But definitely, like I said, pop in The Exorcist sometime. See if you can get the director's cut, the extended cut. Doesn't really come with much extras. It comes with commentary by director William Freidkin, which is very interesting to listen to because you'll learn all about how he filmed it, what he was going for, everything like that. TV and radio spots. Now, a lot of people debate on how much film there actually is in here. There's 10 minutes of footage deleted since the film's 1973 release. So 10 minutes he had to cut. There's also a little shot of the demon in the movie, and I forget his name because they reference him real quick in the beginning. But as the camera's panning along their apartment where they live at, this family, you see his face on the side of a microwave. Now, the debate about that scene was that if you showed that demon, it wouldn't be as frightening as if you didn't show the demon. So, ultimately, in the theatrical cut, you never saw the demon. I believe in this film, you get to see a snippet of that. I believe. Now, you guys don't quote me on that. One of the things too, before I go, that made this film so terrifying is the fact that this family is portrayed as very realistic, very down to earth, very ordinary family. And when this happens, it's an extraordinary event. Obviously, a little girl gets possessed by the devil. It takes a dark turn, and it's actually what would happen if any of this stuff happened. But we all know devil possession don't exist in the United States. I mean, we come far above that. People get possessed by the devil, we just give them medication, kick them out. Back in the day, they got priests to battle that shit. So that's how. But yeah, definitely give this a while. Special effects in this thing are pretty cool too for the 70s. And you got bedrock, you got vomit flying, you got all kinds of stuff. But very frightening, realistic. And when you're done with this, check out an earlier work of his, Sorcerer. As I said, a bunch of ragtag people drive trucks full of nitroglycerin through the jungle. And I'd like to thank my man Fred Shatire. Fred Shatire was a security guard who also was a cop back in the early 80s who saw every movie known to man. He actually was the only guy I know that went to porno theaters whenever they were still around. And he would tell me, hey, dude, check this out, check this out, check this out. Right? So I was pretty much schooled up on him. And he's the one that told me about it, and I did check it out, and honest to God, it's a very, very well done movie. But the only problem is it didn't get much notoriety because a little movie decided to push it out of the way, and that little movie in 1977 was a movie called Star Wars. So it just goes to show you trucks can't compete with intergalactic warfare. Anyway, R.I.P. William Freidkin.